Welcome to the Unlocking Senior Resources podcast by Leave the Key. I'm Larry Wagner, and I've spent 30 years working with seniors, where I was a certified senior advisor, and the last 15 years in the home buying industry as a certified senior transition specialist, where I specialize in dealing with seniors going through a transition in their lives. This podcast is for seniors, those with seniors they love, and people who work in the senior community. In each episode, we bring on a guest who works to improve the lives of seniors. This podcast is your key to unlocking senior resources. Today we're here with Harold Bollaci, a trust and estates attorney. Hello, Harold. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Larry. Good to see you.
Very same here. A pleasure. We know each other a long time.
We do.
And you're here, so let's talk about your practice. But first question, how did you become a trust and estate attorney?
Good question. It wasn't my primary focus in law school. Mm-hmm. My first love in the law was real estate and zoning.
Right up my alley, real estate.
Exactly.
Zoning, another story.
Zoning clicked with me. I thought it was so interesting. Mm-hmm. I was lucky enough to work at a good zoning firm on Long Island at the time. But I was always interested in estate planning, and I thought they went hand in hand. Right. And look, wealthy people had trusts.
Yes.
I was setting out on a professional career, and you want to make money. Mm-hmm. And I saw estate planning as probably a fairly lucrative practice area. Mm-hmm. Again, I started my practice with real estate. High volume real estate's hard, and I give attorneys who practice high volume, especially high volume residential real estate, a lot of credit. Right. So I was able to transition to estate planning. I went back temporarily, or briefly, I should say, to start an LLM. And I never completed it because the practice was too busy. Right. And the 07-08 financial crisis really gave my practice an opportunity to pivot and really focus on estate planning because the real estate market dried up. But I like the personal aspect of estate planning, the generally non-adversarial part of estate planning.
You are definitely too nice a guy to be an adversary.
That's very generous of you to say.
You would not be a good litigator.
I'm not your shark. And I tell people that all the time. If you want a killer, it's not me. I can introduce you to some, but I'm not that shark.
Yes.
I mean, the settlement side of estates, you need a good adversarial attorney, I think. But for a planning side, you need, I'll give myself some credit, you need a decent emotional IQ. You need to have some compassion. Yep. You need to have some patience. Patience is so important. A lot of people don't have it. And so I was blessed with some patience, and that's really developed into a nice estate planning practice.
It's funny you say patience. This is Unlocking Senior Resources. We deal with senior citizens in our real estate business for the most part, not exclusively, but the vast majority. And the way we deal with seniors is so different than the way we deal with the senior's children, who are generally my age or younger, even though I'm a senior. But you have to want to work with seniors. It's a whole different. You have to want to be able to work with them, but you have to be able to do it as well. Not everyone has the right personality.
You're right.
And I speak quickly, but I've taught myself over the 30 years as an advisor to talk more slowly. I still talk fast, but not near as fast. I used to talk like this all the time. That's my normal speech pattern. But that doesn't fly with seniors.
You have to be a little bit more deliberate.
Yes.
And I, too, am a fast talker. I have to remind myself.
You talk fast. Fast talker and attorney don't go well.
Oh, you're right. Thank you for that. But I get along well with seniors. I'm patient. And just the level of communication with the clientele is very different. And when I speak with other attorneys who are interacting with a younger population, it's more email, it's more texting. Most of my clients don't have email.
Right.
They don't check it regularly.
Right.
They're phone callers. And I'll say to people, geez, I had 120 phone calls yesterday.
Right.
How do you handle that? Because my clients still use the phone.
Right.
And a lot of people just aren't programmed for that anymore. And it's not a 90-second conversation.
No.
So that's where the patience. It's all about patience, patience and understanding.
That's a very good word too, understanding. It is I say this a lot in this podcast. Seniors demand they like the people they work with.
Yes.
And quite frankly, I think everyone should, but they always do.
I think so. There's nothing worse than paying somebody for a service and feeling affronted after the fact and feeling that you've been taken advantage of or just been dealt with poorly.
Correct.
And I think, in making those decisions, a lot of people come in and they'll say to me, you were so nice. You spent time with us. You didn't talk down to us.
Right.
Just being a good human goes a long way when it comes to business development.
Being a good human. Yeah. So simple. It seems.
It seems simple. It's hard for a lot of people these days, unfortunately.
You either, as they say, you got it or you don't.
You need to be able to identify what people's concerns are.
Yeah.
And I think one of the good ways to connect is imagine how you would feel if you were in duress. Yes. Or there was a level of uncertainty that you were trying to resolve. You want to interact with someone who understands your feelings.
Right.
It's impossible to 100% understand, but if you can put yourself in somebody's shoes, it's a lot easier to give them advice.
Yes.
Now, that's not to say I've lived through all these emotional experiences, but I've been doing this long enough that I can understand the emotional aspect of this conversation. A lot of people think estate planning is signing your death warrant.
Right.
One of my really good friends, it took him over 10 years to sign his will.
When I write my will, I will die.
I will die because of a superstition. Yes. And that's obviously not the case.
Right.
But so you need to be attuned to those emotional concerns that people have. And you're talking about, other than a doctor, this is one of the most intimate relationships you have.
That's interesting.
And people are very private. We're talking about finances.
Yes.
We're talking about family legacy, about how children may or may not be behaving. And when I talk about children, I'm talking about adults.
Yes.
50, 60, 70-year-olds who are sometimes still behaving like 10-year-olds.
Or the 18 and 20-year-old grandchild who's going off on a wrong path. And
absolutely.
Yeah. It's complicated because sometimes people are making their wills. Let me take a step back so people know from where I'm speaking. I worked in the financial advisory business for 30 years. My clients were all seniors. I only took people upon retirement or after retirement. And I did a lot of estate work for clients. I'm not an attorney, but I would do is I'd have all the attorney dialogue with them in advance. Then when they'd walk into the attorney, they knew everything they wanted to do. They knew what a trust was versus a will, and they knew what they needed. They knew if there was a testamentary trust, whatever the case. They knew all of that. They had all the notes. Oftentimes, I go to the attorney with them and tell the attorney what they want. And then the big issue, though, was who is going to be the executor? I have 3 kids. My parents. 3 kids. My father and I were business partners in this financial business. One lived in Austria, one lived in Connecticut, and I lived 10 minutes from my father, and we worked together 5 days a week and saw each other on weekends. So who's the obvious executor? Well, it's me. My mother had the 3 of us executors because she felt she didn't want to offend any. My father said, but Florence, Larry's the logical executor. Don't make 3. It can create conflict. Well, it turns out it didn't create conflict, but you've seen it so many times. But that's because she dealt with it from an emotional perspective, and he was pragmatic. Exactly.
Right.
Sometimes feelings have to be factored in. Feelings have to be factored in certain parts of estate planning, but logic has to rule in other parts. Is that a fair?
That's a perfect summation.
Yeah.
And truly, I say to people, who wants to be an executor?
Right.
It's a dreadful
it's terrible.
job. And there's it's a competition. No, pick me, choose me.
Right. No, choose him. No, choose him.
You have a full-time job. You're assuming somebody's existence when you become their executor. Yes. And you're you're doing it all at once.
Right.
So you're stepping into somebody's shoes that they've been wearing for 70, 80, 90 years. And now you have to do it all at once. A lot of time, again, under duress usually, or under some type of emotional strain.
Yep.
And you've got to pick up the pieces.
Yep.
And a lot of people have full-time work.
Yes.
So now you have another full-time job.
Yep.
And the conflict that just the executor decision creates. I have a file now. The mother passed in 2017 and the father passed in 2020. And one of the brothers is just so upset that he was not the nominated executor. And when we go in front of the surrogate, she says, so we're here to argue about how to divide by 5, counselor. And we all get a little chuckle out of it.
Right.
Yes, Your Honor. And that's why we're here. We're here because somebody is aggrieved because they were not given that fiduciary appointment. And now we're going to argue over how to divide by 5. Right. And we're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, and tons of time and emotion to divide by 5. To me, that's tragic. Yeah. It is an absolute tragedy when that takes place. It does not correspond with the decedent's intent.
No.
That's not what Dad wanted. No. I'm sorry. You know what? Dad made this decision. He was a smart man. Right. No offense. This was not your role to
Correct.
assume.
Right. You can't second guess him. It's his decision.
And unfortunately, people fight with their adult siblings like their children. If you and I had a disagreement today, it would be professional. We'd get through it.
Correct.
And we'd probably be able to resume our friendship 10 minutes later.
Correct.
You fight with your brothers and sisters very differently.
Oh,
and you harbor resentments from decades ago that are irrational. So trying to get people to solve that is exponentially harder because it's an irrational disagreement.
I'm going to change to an emotional agreement, which is what makes it irrational. It's the emotional part.
It's the emotion.
I've seen stories, again, when I sold my practice 7 years ago, I had 880 clients with an average age of 80. Yeah. So I went through a lot of death claims in my 30 years. And I had some wonderful stories how the kids pooled together to settle the estate expediently and easily with no conflict. I had a story where one of my clients, she had a single school teacher daughter in Arizona who made Arizona teacher salary, and a very famous name, I won't mention, wealthy actor son. And the son called me up one day and said, how do I not become a beneficiary of my mother's estate? And I said, I can send you some papers. I have an attorney draw up some papers. He goes, great, send it to me. I want to sign them. He wanted all the money to go to his sister because I don't need it. It'll really change her life. And so you hear the good story, the perfectly normal stories, the great stories, but for every great story, there's typically more than one not great story. Is that your experience?
Well, and we talk about the bad because the bad is more entertaining.
It definitely is more entertaining.
If you and I were to sit here and just talk about, I settled a trust the other day. We divided everything by 3. Everyone was thrilled. The house closed in 30 days. Right. That doesn't make for a good conversation.
What's the expression? No news is good news.
No news is good news.
Right, the good news doesn't make the news.
No, that's that.
Right, a 2-minute human interest story and then 28 minutes of terrible things.
Exactly. Of weather and shootings.
That's true. Yeah. I want to say something also, and this is just about people doing proper planning. We used to do a lot of business down in Washington. My father and we did a lot of work with the IRS to get private letter rulings and so on. And we had a very high-powered law firm. And the law firm had 4 or 5 of the top lawyers on a private plane that went down. They lost 4 or 5 of the top attorneys, and that was tragic. One of the attorneys was married with 2 young children and had a multi-million-dollar life insurance, a corporate-owned life insurance policy, which my father had sold him. That's the relationship. Anyway, his sister was his beneficiary. He bought it before he was married. He never changed the beneficiary. So my father got on the phone with the sister, and she did the right thing. Another good story. But here's an attorney that does estate work for a living. The classic shoemaker syndrome.
Thank you.
And I hope your estate's in order. I won't ask.
I'm not going to comment on that.
But this is crazy. He was like a $500 an hour attorney in the 1980s.
Right.
Maybe in the 90s. And yet still didn't take care of his own estate. And left his wife would have been without millions of dollars for his wife and kids. So
it's exceptionally common.
Interesting word. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Larry. And I'm Ben. We're the father and son team of Leave the Key Homebuyers, and we want to buy your house.
We specialize in working with seniors who are transitioning out of their homes, and we understand what you were going through.
So if you're considering selling your home and would like an alternative to the traditional overwhelming process, reach out and see how we can help.
Do you have an outdated home?
No need to update anything.
Have a home that needs repairs?
Don't bother with repairs.
Don't want to take everything with you?
Leave whatever you want behind.
Dreading the headaches that come with agents?
Sell your home without paying a commission.
dreading prying neighbors attending open houses and passing judgment on your home?
No need for public showings.
When you sell to us, you'll have all the certainty of closing on your timeline, not someone else's, and there's absolutely no pressure.
Visit leavethekey.com or call us today for a no-obligation offer at 631-388-7771 if you want to sell your home today.
Statistically, only about 1/3 of Americans have put pen to paper and made some effort to do a last will and testament at the very least.
Right.
I sound like a broken record with my clients. Update your beneficiary designations.
Yes.
Whenever you do estate planning, this is your time to be organized.
Right.
And to your point, it's so common.
Yeah.
Oh, I got this policy before I got married.
Right.
And it's also, this happens with divorces too. People forget to update policies after divorces.
Yes. I had that too.
And beneficiary designations are not just about going to the right people.
Right.
It's about avoiding court interference.
Correct.
In settling your estate. It passes by operation of law. So it's important at every level, in my opinion.
People to understand that beneficiary designations for your IRA, you may have a transfer on death designation on your bank accounts, brokerage accounts. They supersede the will. So you can write a will that says everything goes to my son, but you have a deadbeat daughter. It's always a deadbeat son.
That was very kind of you.
I'm switching it around. And yet when you die, if your will says one thing, but your the beneficiary designation says something else, there's no argument. You lose.
There really isn't. You lose.
And I see that too. I had an attorney once tell me that write a will for one of our clients. Not if it was a will or a trust, where, it was the trust, we were able to change the beneficiary designation. It said it assumes that all the monies above and beyond the estate tax exemption amount would be poured over into the trust even after death. Am I quoting that properly? And then I want to get to how I got there. But basically, if the person didn't move the money in the trust like they should have, it was assumed to be moved into the trust.
So they did a pour-over will?
It was a pour-over will. Yeah. So I want to make sure I use the right language. So I want to get to that in a bit. Let's discuss, if it makes sense to you, what typically people write wills. The vast majority of people, the vast majority of the 1/3 write wills.
Right.
Out of the people who write wills, some of them write trusts.
Right.
You want to discuss, because that's probably an area of confusion, a trust versus a will.
It's a big area of confusion. Your popular culture and the vernacular mislabel things.
Right.
A lot of people come in and say, I need a living will.
Right.
No, a living will is a healthcare proxy.
Right.
It's not a document that disposes of assets.
Correct.
So just thanks just to popular culture, and in other states they name things different things.
I never knew it wasn't called a living will in other states. That I didn't know.
Well, in New York, a living will would deal with healthcare decisions.
Right. Correct.
In New York, we call it a healthcare proxy.
Okay, healthcare proxy.
And it's a statutory form.
Okay.
So in New York, your living will is really just contemporaneous evidence of your decisions.
Okay.
The proxy would govern because it's a statutory form.
Right.
So for most people, a will mirrors the intestacy laws.
Mm-hmm.
So for the listeners, intestacy is when you pass away without a will.
Right.
And the laws in New York outline who would inherit if you didn't have a will at the time you died.
Right. There's a pecking order.
There's a pecking order.
With spouse,
that's
children.
a great way to describe it. Right. And it makes sense.
Yes, it does.
It's a very logical thing.
And the government did that. And it's logical.
Can you imagine that? I just complimented something the legislature did.
That's right.
I mean, mark that on the clock.
That's right. Right.
So for the most part, good estate planning generally mirrors intestacy. Because what are you doing? You're probably leaving your assets in your will to your surviving spouse.
Right.
And then if the spouse predeceases, to your children, if you have any.
Correct.
Generally in equal shares.
Right.
And that's really what most planning deals with.
Right.
But there are plenty of people who need a little bit more.
Right.
For whatever reason. Right. Blended families.
Right.
Individuals with disabilities, individuals with substance abuse problems.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's an enormous problem. And again, people use the phrase, my kid. Your kid's a 65-year-old substance abuser. Right. So you're dealing with adults who have a lifetime of problems, and you're trying to, and you have a parent who, for whatever reason, has enabled it or has been a caregiver. And what do you do with that person? I have stories. My son lives in the shed in the backyard, and is a substance abuser. Right. When mom dies, his sister's not going to tolerate that for 1 minute. Yeah. So how do you plan for things like that? So it's these exceptions, but I feel like things that were exceptional or exceptions to the rule 10, 15 years ago are just far more normal now. I think
that's interesting.
I think I just see a lot more of
interesting.
More problems. And that could be just naivete, perspective, but I think it's more of a societal shift.
So I never thought about that, but society's it's not improving, unfortunately. I think we're running into more and more problems, and what you're saying would sort of follow that. I never really put that in perspective of your business, but you were saying so. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Add to that generations of children being born with special needs. Right. Autism is a. They
say 1 in 30 now. Right. I mean, that's crazy.
And so a lot of autistic children are able to be mainstreamed, but for those who don't, it's a huge concern for parents. Yes. And that has become a much bigger part of my planning and practice than it would have been 20 years ago or even 15 years ago.
We have a special needs granddaughter, and we interesting. We sort of went off topic of the trust, but we put in, and before my granddaughter was born, we had a special needs trust. Whatever, I don't know the word would be. We planned for a special needs trust just in case. We had no grandchildren, but we had a special needs trust sort of built in just in case. And I hope we'd never need it, but we need it. Yeah. So we'll get to that. But that's okay. So we talk about, so a will says this is what I want to happen to my assets when I die. Right. And a trust says something beyond. It gives more latitude.
This bears over repeating.
Yes.
A last will and testament only distributes assets that do not transfer by operation of law. Okay. That's the first thing I'm going to tell you when you come to my office and ask me what a will is.
And people will say, what's operation of law?
And what does that mean? And I start with the B word, the beneficiary.
Correct.
It's all about beneficiary designations.
Yes.
So what's the one thing we don't put a beneficiary designation on?
Typically our accounts.
No, we don't put the beneficiary
I thought like your bank account and checking account.
Your house.
Oh, but don't you have a beneficiary sort of by having joint right and survivor?
For your spouse.
You mean for kids. Correct.
But
correct.
Why would you put your kids on your deed?
Right. Which I wouldn't put my kids on my deed for tax purposes.
Right. But also bad things happen to good people.
Oh, that's true too. They can attach the house.
So, So the logical step is you come in and you say, I'd really like to avoid probate.
Right.
I have my beneficiary designations covered. So I know that my will is really only going to distribute my biggest asset for most people, my primary residence.
Right.
And why can't I put my kids on it and then I don't have to use a will?
Right.
Because bad things happen to good people. And once you put somebody's name on your deed, your house is available to their creditors.
Correct.
That is such an important takeaway because it's not bad. It's not a bad idea to put someone's name on the deed. It just the risk is so great. Why would you do that?
That's one thing. If I put my daughter on my deed, would she lose the step up? Or at least half the step up.
I think she'd lose part of the step up.
Correct.
Yeah.
The step up.
Because you're breaking up the entity.
Right. She would get a gift now. Right. A value of the house. I'm giving up, just to be specific, a step up is when if I buy a house for $500,000, I die, it's worth $800,000, and my daughter inherits it. She inherits at $800,000. So if she goes to sell it, anything over $800,000 becomes taxable. There's more to it than that, but that's a simple version.
Right.
But if I gift her, listen, I gift her the whole house. She gets my $500,000 base. She sells it for over $800,000 or $900,000. She pays tax from $500,000 all the way up. So I've never been a fan of putting people on for that reason. I don't think in terms of protection. I think I was a finance guy.
I know.
I think in terms of dollars and cents. And you're an attorney. It takes a village.
It does take a village. Thankfully, you do get the credits for the sale of a primary residence.
Correct.
So in that instance, it would.
You do.
Most sales of primary residences are tax neutral events. Unless you were that lucky person who got a house somewhere for $50,000 and lived for 60 years.
We buy from senior. My parents sold. I saw my parents' house after they were gone.
but they bought it for $21,000. We sold it for $700. So there would have been a capital gain to pay. And they did nothing to the house in all those years of a garage door and an air conditioner. I mean, that was pretty much it. So and refaced the kitchen. That's really literally it. So they would have the cost basis $30,000. They sold it for $7,000. Right. And the reason they sold it for $7,000 because they had done nothing to the house for all those decades. Otherwise, it would have been worth $8,000 or $9,000. But putting that aside, so we buy from seniors. So those people have capital gains to pay, and I talk to those people about it and make sure they get all their improvements put together and so on. I help them try to resurrect. Because being a financial guy, I'm a house buyer, but being a financial guy, I can't let them pay more tax than they have to pay. I get involved.
I love that.
I don't have a choice. It's in my DNA. So you just can't let it go. It doesn't affect me, but it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Because it's their money.
Right. It's their money.
Yeah.
And I want them to get as much money. I'm buying a house from them. What I tell my clients, I want to give you as much money for your house as possible where I can still make a living. Yes. That's the way I phrase it.
And help them.
And right.
You are.
Absolutely.
In a lot of cases, you're helping them. A lot of times these houses have become unmanageable for people. The taxes, the insurance, just the upkeep.
Living here on Long Island is not for seniors, not for many seniors.
It's very sad.
And it's not for kids. It's a problem.
It's just for people at their peak earnings.
Right.
Unless you're at peak earnings, it's hard to live.
It's that 40 to 70-year-old. Once you're outside of those, you're in trouble on Long Island.
The real estate taxes are just too high.
They're too high. And housing is too high. Housing and taxes. If you're older, it's the tax. If you're younger, it's the price.
Yes.
So it's a bad scene.
But even there's very limited affordable senior housing.
Yes.
There are not a lot of areas where seniors can sell and downsize.
No.
On a reasonable budget. I mean, yes, there are a lot. Right. There's some luxury apartments going up.
That's more than the house
for everybody. It's more than the house.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother story.
And I don't think I've answered your trust question.
No. So go. I was just going to say, get back to the trust.
So. Traditionally, I think in our culture, people have thought trust for rich people.
Right.
And when we were kids,
the
my
Rockefellers had
grandparents
trust.
didn't have a trust.
Right.
The rich kids' parents had trust.
Right.
That is a myth.
Right.
I'm sure that was the case back in the day, but back then there were far fewer wealthy people.
Correct.
Most people now own a primary residence, have some savings, so they have more of an interest in doing legacy planning.
Correct.
And that's what trusts were traditionally designed for, among other things. But it was a way to safeguard generational wealth. Correct. And there are lots of stories in this country about people, very wealthy robber baron families, and those trusts are still in existence.
Yep.
And that money is just perpetually taking care of family members. Why would regular people need a trust?
Mm-hmm.
Can I break down just some definitions before we get into the
it's
trust
not so straightforward.
Because it isn't. It isn't.
Right.
Just definitionally, there are so many labels that you can place on trust. People come into me and they say a name because they read about the name of a trust. I want a land trust.
Right.
I want a Medicaid trust. Or I want an asset protection trust.
Yeah.
A trust is a trust is a trust is a trust.
Right.
Yeah, they're used for different things and the languages within them are modified, but a trust is a trust.
I say revocable and irrevocable. That's how I divide it.
That's generally how I divide it as well.
Yeah.
So what's a revocable trust and what's an irrevocable trust?
Yeah.
And I think the best way to analogize what a trust is, it's like having a family company.
Yeah.
And on a revocable trust, you're the owner and you're the president. And on an irrevocable trust, you're the owner, but you're not the president. You've delegated that responsibility, the responsibility of serving as a trustee, to somebody other than yourself.
Right.
But a trust has it has a very similar identity to a family company. It has a very, very similar structure. And what does it provide for? It provides you the opportunity to manage your assets during your lifetime. And then it provides for the seamless transfer of those assets to a successor trustee, either upon your incapacity or death. And it's a seamless. And so you've created your succession plan.
Yeah.
And you've also identified who the new owners are of the corporation, which is your assets.
Right.
And the idea is that it's seamless and it gives the creator of the trust an opportunity to put strings on money, for lack of a better word.
I was going to use that term.
Yeah.
You used it for me.
Some people say reaching out from the grave.
Right.
You're putting strings on things. Right. And for most people, you're restricting money for minors.
Right.
But per our comments earlier, some people are restricting money because people have grown-ups just have issues.
Yeah.
And you have a vested interest in, you want to provide shelter.
Right.
And food.
Right.
And safety for that person.
Right.
But maybe they can't manage their own money.
Right.
And then by the same token for individuals with disabilities.
Right.
And some people just want to, most people in a trust, you're dealing with a primary residence and some liquidity.
Right.
So the idea of trying to really stretch that out generationally is a little bit harder. What most of the people who I'm working with are creating trust for is just for that transition to the next generation, maintaining at the next generation, and maybe there's something left over for the generation after that.
Right.
It's less of the long-term legacy just because the zeros aren't there.
Right. Right.
If you're dealing with over a certain number, then you're dealing more with legacy, and you get into, okay, well, beneficiaries have to buy things into trust.
Right.
So what you're doing is you're restricting outright gifts, and you're transferring assets into trust and causing the beneficiaries to use that trust to live on, and live in trust assets. And that's how you create the generational wealth.
Right. It's so true, because I hear people, the same thing, say, oh, I don't have enough money for a trust. A trust is not necessarily an expensive document. It's not cheap. It's not free, but it's not expensive. Right. And the money it saves in the long run so often is trounced. It's
priceless.
It's so many times over to get your money back. There's the estate. There's the family get the money back.
Forget about the finances.
Right.
The emotional
that's true
expense,
too.
The expense of not sitting through probate for 6, 8, 12 months, 18 months.
Right.
We've done files together. We've seen court files
3 years, 5 months.
Years upon years.
Yes.
And that's symptomatic of a lot of things. Look, the surrogate courts in New York, especially downstate.
Yes.
They're overworked.
Yep.
And they're understaffed.
Right.
So I could sit here and criticize, but just on their face, they're overworked and understaffed.
Right.
Forget about my other criticisms.
Right.
So why would you leave that burden to your family when a document you can prepare as a healthy person would alleviate that burden and the expense, the conversation, the fear, the uncertainty, the delays.
Yep. As we said, putting a trust, a beneficiary on your IRA, you don't go through probate court. Having a trust, you don't go through probate court, because it's not going through your will. Only assets going through the will go through probate.
Right.
So if you put everything you own in the trust, probate is a non-existent process in the estate settlement. Is that a correct statement?
I beg my clients, if we do our work together correctly, if you go put your beneficiaries on your accounts, because I can't do that.
Right. Correct.
The financial services firm, if I called you up and said, Larry, I need to put so-and-so, you're going to say, Harold, I can't do that for you. Unless you have a power of attorney or this, that, or the other. I can't do that for my clients. I can put your real estate into trust, and I can walk you into your financial advisor and say, we need to retitle this account into trust, or we need to make this account, we need to add the trust as a beneficiary on that account. It's as easy as, and unfortunately I've experienced this where I've had clients in contract to buy, in contract to sell, and they pass away. Their successor trustee can act immediately.
Right. Correct.
And this is really important on a sale where, all right, closing's next week.
Right.
Mom died on Tuesday.
Right.
Her daughter can close on that sale the next day.
Right.
Without any participation from anyone. So that's a priceless legal mechanism in my judgment. You can't put a price on that.
And let's go through, without names, of course, what you and I are living through right now.
Yeah.
I'm buying a house from somebody in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I went into contract 3.5 years ago, and this gentleman has to go, without going too much detail, he inherited the house, and now he wants to sell the house, but he never settled the estate. So it gets a little complicated. I don't go too much detail. So now we have to go through probate and from the part he inherited. Long story again. It's been 3 years, I think 3 months, 3 years, 5 months, was 6 months since you settled. In the meantime, there's a leak in the house of the big water bill that we have to take care of. The house is falling to disrepair. A squatter moved in. All this, we would have bought this house 3.5 years ago. None of this would have happened. The house is being purchased for over $1 million. He'd have $1 million in his pocket. Instead, he doesn't have any of that money, and that money would change his life later at this late stage in his life. If that house were held in a trust, none of this would have happened. And it would have been like this.
Done.
And not only that, he's running up legal bills because you've spent 3.5 years on this situation. As you said, the Brooklyn courts are behind. We'll just leave it at that. This is untenable. And we're coughing up money to pay tax. He doesn't have the money to pay the taxes on this house. Doesn't have the money to pay the other expenses on this house. Me personally, my company's paying those bills. We'll deduct them when we buy the house ultimately. But how many people do that? Who lays out tens of thousands of dollars for somebody else they never met? Literally never met. People don't do that.
You're it, Larry.
I'm it.
Yeah,
right?
you're it.
So he would have lost the house.
He probably would have lost the house. And this is, I want to comment on this in two really important parts. And this comes up in a lot of our conversations.
Yeah.
Who's in charge after I die?
Right. Yeah.
And someone will come and say, I'm the executor. No, you're not.
Right. No, you're not. You're right.
You're the nominated.
Not for 3 years and 5 months or whatever is
right.
this case.
You know, so people like to march around with a copy of a will and say, I'm the executor. Not yet, you're not.
Right.
You're the nominated, and odds are you are.
Right.
But so the
odds are you will be.
You will be.
Right.
Excuse me. Thank you for that grammatical.
Yes. It's a legal distinction.
It's a legal distinction.
Yes.
You're right. But who's in charge in the meantime?
Right.
So who paid for the funeral?
Right.
Who pays to upkeep the house? Who has capacity to evict a tenant?
Right. Yeah.
The answer is nobody.
Nobody.
You can't commence an eviction proceeding, and let alone, God forbid, a squatter moves in.
Right.
So you're really, why would you expose that uncertainty to your heirs?
Right.
And then on the case that you were mentioning, the challenge becomes with a will, and depending on how long ago a person died, is you need to establish a class of people who would inherit under intestacy.
Right.
And all of those people, in one fashion or another, have to participate in either the administration proceeding or the probate proceeding.
Right.
Sometimes it's hard to find those people.
Yes. Yes.
And it's even harder sometimes to get their participation.
Right.
So the delays caused from just establishing jurisdiction over interested parties it could take years. You have to hire kinship investigators.
Which we did. Which we paid for.
Which you paid for.
Yes.
And this is a very common occurrence when we have decedents who are very old, who have no lineal heirs. God forbid they're the youngest of a class of people.
Right.
Their nieces and nephews could be long gone.
Right.
So now we're looking for very distant relatives. Add in another country.
Right.
Add in another country that had bad record keeping because of civil strife at a certain time.
Right.
How am I proving to the court that I've identified all of that decedent's lineal heirs?
Right. That's if there's no will.
And that's also under a will. Interested parties need to be notified. If you would inherit under intestacy, you need notice.
Right.
Under the will. Mm-hmm. So that's where those are cited parties.
Right.
And so that will hold up a will until all distributees are either waive in or cited. It's
not straightforward. People think it's easy.
Very confusing.
I don't know about other states. We live in New York. But in New York, it takes Nassau, Suffolk counties where we're located. How long should someone anticipate probate taking once they get the paperwork to the courts?
I think as a general rule now, 6 to 8 months.
6 to 8 months. So mom and dad are gone. I'm sitting with their house in Syosset like I was. I have to wait 6 to 8 months to sell that house, $18,000 in taxes. I have to keep utilities on and so on. It's costing me, $2,500 a month. And I don't have access to the bank accounts unless I'm on them, right? So what's happening? So I'm shelling out the money, or I'm fighting my brother and sister. We each share it. The fight begins. What if you don't have the money? Right. So the fights begin, or the financial tragedy begins, and the house gets foreclosed upon, or whatever the case. It's so bad. It really speaks so well for of a trust.
That's the phrase. It's the financial tragedy.
Yeah.
It's the loss to the asset.
Right.
Because so much can happen.
Right.
Just asset depreciation.
Yes.
It's tragic. And I say to people, you've spent your entire life being responsible financially. You've budgeted. You've been parsimonious. You didn't go on vacation. You didn't do this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
And you're going to just leave that all to the wind.
Right. When
you die. Right. Why, if you're so organized in life, why wouldn't you put the effort to being organized in death?
Correct. It makes sense. It makes sense.
You didn't waste a penny during your lifetime. You want to see all this waste.
Right.
Because that's what it is, because the estate ends up reimbursing for the waste, if there is any, or incurring the charges and the late fees.
And then if you don't do a trust, so put even that waste aside, but you've controlled how your money was spent during your lifetime. As I said, you don't necessarily want to control from the grave. I have a funny story about that, but you want to make sure it's being utilized well in your lifetime. For instance, you may die and you have grandkids pre-college age. Yeah. You want to make sure money's put aside for college because your son loves sports cars. Yeah. And your money's going to buy a sports car and you rather see that money go pay for your grandkids' education. You can do that in a trust.
Absolutely.
You can't do that in a will. In a will, you're saying, here's the money. Do with it what you wish. In a trust, say, I'm giving you whatever I choose to give you. It's either money, it's the right to the money if you do certain things with it. It's the right to the money if you go to college for a grandkid. You can put, as you said, strings. The strings are attached. And it makes such a difference. And I have a client whose son wasn't going to go to college. Her grandson was not going to go to college. And she said, if you go to college and graduate, I'll buy you a Corvette. That's what she told him. The kid went to college, graduated, got his Corvette, and he became a professional. He would have been probably a loser if he didn't, because you saw the path he was going down. It wasn't he wouldn't have been a loser because he didn't go to college. He was going one different path. College introduced him to new people, new ideas, new mindset, and he became an executive. So sometimes those let me rephrase. What better use of your money is there than that? It cost you college and a Corvette, but you changed the trajectory of your grandkid's life, which may have changed all the generations below him.
Completely.
Right? Completely. So your reach is far beyond what you could ever anticipate. And that happened during her lifetime. If she had died earlier, that could have happened after her death as well.
I have turned into such an advocate for grandchildren.
Yes.
And I don't have children, but I really advocate for grandchildren because people come in and generally we'll just leave it to the parents,
right? Which
is fine. They want their,
right.
On Long Island, I think people coming in doing estate planning,
right.
They're worried about their kids' finances in large part because of what life is like.
It's the first generation that's having a harder time than their parents.
Yes. And so it's a true concern for people coming in mid-70s, early 80s. They're concerned about their children's finances.
Right.
Even if the children are fine, they see what's taking place here. So it's very uncommon for me to see a lot of bequests to grandchildren.
Right.
And when I see grandchildren inherit, to your story, it's a very special thing. And I beg people, you don't have to leave them a lot.
Right.
Grandma left me something.
Right.
Grandma and grandpa left me something.
Yep.
And it's such an important part of planning.
Right.
And so I wish more people would do it. I guess that's why I'm saying that.
Right. Grandma always,
because the impact is so great.
Correct. Grandma always put that $20 bill in the card in the mail for my birthday. Right. And here you can leave your kid. I used to tell my clients all the time. I was in your camp. My clients were retired school teachers. They're worth $1 million to $2 million. Yes. And this is, again, I left 7 years ago. So, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and so on. And I said, leave $10,000 to your grandchildren. It won't change what you're leaving to your children. It's too insignificant. But let your grandchildren know that you're thinking of them at this very moment when you're writing your documents. And I said, and $10,000 to your grandchildren may mean more than leaving $500,000 to your children who may be well-heeled. These are educators. Most of my clients' kids were successful. Educators tend to value education. Kids went off to college. People go to college, typically make more money than non-college graduates, just math, just statistics. And so they don't, the $10,000, so if they have 3 kids, inheriting $500,000 and $470,000 doesn't make a difference. But each of the 3 kids getting 10 from you makes a difference.
Right. It's a percentage of the whole. It's nothing.
It's nothing.
But the impact is exponential.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I've seen it so many times.
Yep.
And I love it.
Yep. And then what I did in my own situation back when I wrote my first will, where I controlled money in one way, was I was young. As a matter of fact, I wrote my will when my daughter I have 2 kids, and my son was born, but my daughter wasn't born yet. And I said that money will be distributed to my son at 21, 25, and 30. Some people do earlier. Some people just at 18. But when I rewrote my will later on, I'm on my 3rd. I've had numerous. My life has changed. You're supposed to. The will is a living organism. Sometimes you have to shoot it and put it behind the barn, shoot it. But other times you can modify it.
Update it.
Just update it. Right. In my case, they've been the barn. But anyway, I gave my brother-in-law, who's the executor of our wills, and I gave my kids were minors still, and I gave them to write. It was 21 or 25, 21, 25, and 30. I said, or in certain life circumstances. And, if they get married, if they want to buy a house, if they want to start a business, being a 3rd-generation entrepreneur, my mind goes there. So this way, you're still controlling the money by entrusting someone to carry out your wishes. And that was so, again, but that, to distribute that way, that required a trust, if I am imagining. You can't do that in a will.
Well,
can you? I don't remember. I don't remember having a trust back then.
Testamentary trusts.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. So just for your listeners,
yes,
a trust can be created through a last will and testament.
Correct.
It does not avoid probate.
Correct.
But it's fairly common, especially among my younger clients, because when I'm dealing with the younger clients, their biggest asset are their children.
Yes.
So I'm obsessed with guardianship provisions for children. And then we'd build a trust in there that would be triggered upon their death, and that would have the laddered distributions and bequests based on life events. And there too, people get really creative, and this is a fun part of it. Religious instruction, music instruction, sports, whatever is important to the family, and it's an incentive for the beneficiary to sort of carry on and achieve some of the things that their parents would have expected had they survived. Again, thankfully, most of those wills never see the light of day because everybody survives. But, you were in the financial services business all those years. It's good to equate the two. Your estate plan is like an insurance policy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I analogize my legal fee to an insurance premium all the time. You're guaranteeing, the legal fee is a guarantee that what you want done will get done. It's an insurance policy. That has to be amended over time and grow with you.
And has to grow with you. Correct.
So view the fees as it's a premium.
Right. I went on one trip where I had a will written, and I realized in my will were my wife, my kids, and God forbid something tragic, my siblings, my parents, everybody, and I realized we're all on one plane together. We're going to my niece's bat mitzvah, and we're going to be in Israel on one bus with my brother, my sister, her husband, her kids, literally the entire mishpacha. Everyone's in one bus in Israel. Oh my goodness. And stuff happens. And I needed to write a doomsday will.
Yes.
And I wrote a will that had an expiration date on it. I said the will was valid. My attorney said I'd never done that. It was valid from this date to this date. And it was the time we were away, and said if something happened to all of us, money went to all these friends and cousins and everything else that would normally not have been in my will. Yes. But they were literally, if everyone who would have been in my will and even beyond that was gone. So I thought that was an interesting thing. I said, I worked too hard. Where's it going to go? And I had friends who were much closer to them, some distant family, and I wanted to make sure it was distributed. So thank God that will was expired and torn up. And because I never had an expiration. I said I want to let it be good for 10 days.
I've never heard of an expiration.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Thankfully, travel inspires people to do estate planning, even though it's a low-risk event generally.
Correct.
But to your point, when everybody's together, what do we do? So it's good practice to have a charity in there.
Yep, I did. I did.
Whenever you do estate planning, it's such a good time to get organized and not just with your finances. Do some ancestry. Yeah. Do that family tree because if you don't have lineal heirs or you have limited heirs, we're going to have to go looking for those people.
Correct.
So, and truly, I think doing that kind of work is generally rewarding or interesting for most people. Yeah. So I think it's worth the effort. Right. And it goes a long way.
And some people enjoy the process. So
absolutely. Yeah. You generally learn something.
Yeah. Very interesting. So question, we've spoken a lot about at this point with estate work, trust and estate work, that we could talk 20 hours. I mean, you went to law school for years to learn about this stuff, and you spent, how long are you practicing?
24 years now.
So 24 years. Yeah. So we're trying to summarize 24 years. So we touched on trust and estates. Trust basically. And we talked about a difference in a trust and a will. So I said a trust gives you more control and more detail as to what you want with your money. And it goes on. It doesn't end with a will. A will is a short-term product, document.
Yeah.
A trust
it's a transactional event.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to sort of, the biggest takeaway from today's discussion, what would that be? I shouldn't have said what I said because to me, that was a big takeaway. What's yours?
Get organized. Mm-hmm. It's all about organization. It's a great opportunity. And you can do it at any age because these are documents that should evolve with you.
I think at every age.
At every age.
Instead of any age, every age.
At every age.
Yeah.
Please don't wait till you're 97.
Right.
I do have people do that. If you own a home, if you have children, you should have some type of estate planning documents.
Right.
Execute.
But a shout out to my father-in-law. He turned 97 yesterday.
God bless him.
You said 97.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's got his will and trust done?
He has his will and trust done. Yep. He put trust together. I'm not sure I agree with what he did, but he did it. It doesn't matter. It's something. It makes life easier.
The successor trustee.
Hopefully not the successor trustee. That's right. I don't think I am. But
the takeaway for me, it's a great time to get organized.
Yes.
And
it's always a great time to get organized.
It's always a great time to get organized. You and I have talked about organization in the past and being organized. I think I'm organized. I'm sure objectively, a lot of people would disagree with that.
Right.
But take what's important to you and put it together. Right. And that way it's there and it's done. There's a great book. It's called I'm Dead, Now What? I should get commissions on Amazon for selling this book. And really it's a book that says, this is who I am. Right. This is what I have. This is where I want it to go. Right. These are the people I'm related to. These are my decision makers. Right. And it evolves. And you need to look at this over time because the people you selected at 40 are different than the people you're going to select at 60. Right. And then you reach a point where people are going to start to age out of service as a fiduciary. Good. Yes. It's really unfair to expect your 85-year-old brother to be your trustee. Right. It's such a burden. So you need to identify next generation decision makers. Right. That's very important. And come up with some contingencies because people come in and the last thing you want to be doing in advanced retirement is settling somebody's estate. Nice term, advanced retirement. Meaning old. There you go. Very good. Yeah. I just came up with that one. There you go. Feel free to use that. There you go. Advanced retirement. Yes, it's so true. So the key takeaway is plan today and plan again tomorrow and plan again next day. It's an ongoing process. Life changes. Get organized. And I tell people, look, I'm not going to be here forever, but this isn't a one-off. Right. Keep in touch. Right. I'm not the greatest at communicating with all my clients just because it's hard to communicate with. You're their one estate attorney. They're one of your many clients. Right. So it's got to be a different direction. It's a different street, but I love to hear from people. And I love to hear from people 10, 15 years later. I do remember you. I want to see you. I want you to call me and say, we need to change this.
Right.
And the changes are so easy now.
Right.
I'm not going to charge you. I want to see you. I haven't seen you in 10 years. Come in. We'll make that change.
Right.
At least now it's done.
Right.
And you can put your mind at ease.
Oh, right. You're not retyping a whole document again.
We're not retyping 45, 50 pages. We're just changing out a line and re-signing.
Right.
It's a much easier process.
Right. That's interesting.
So being organized is one of the greatest gifts you can leave to your heirs.
Right.
In addition to your legacy, it just makes it easy for people.
My father, I spent probably a couple hundred hours settling his estate. Now I was the sole executor on that one.
Yeah.
And he had left me a book with all his assets. We're partners on many of our real estate investments, but both our estates are incredibly complicated. I was just putting my assets together literally yesterday, and it's 2 pages long in an Excel spreadsheet because I have so much money in so many places. I'm an investor. It's what I do. And I can own 20 houses at a time in different companies, and life could be so complicated. So my estate's so complicated, but even a simple estate still needs to be attention paid to it. And it's so important. But in my father's case, the reason I bring it up is that list of assets was so important, made it life so much easier. Not only was it a list of assets, it was a list of contact person and a phone number. And so it made my life so much easier when I dealt with each asset. I knew exactly where to go. So not only write the documents, but be nice to your executors, be nice to your administrators.
Have the conversation.
Yes.
And
I'd love to have discussed that, but I could spend 45 minutes on talking to your kids.
Talking to your kids, talking to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, this could be a 20-hour episode.
Yes. Yeah.
And we'd still barely scratch the surface.
Yes.
This is common with a surviving spouse.
Right. Oh, yeah. They know nothing.
I haven't written a check since people come in. I didn't even know where the checkbook was.
Right. That's
my husband did it all, or my wife did it all.
Yeah.
So imagine if your spouse
is now 85,
doesn't have a handle on your finances.
Right. Spouse is 85, 90, and she's never written a check.
Right.
Right. And now suddenly she's in charge of the household finance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now imagine you're that person's son or daughter.
Right. And now you're in charge.
And now you're in charge, and it's just a fact-finding mission.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, for our own protection, it's really hard to communicate with financial services firms. You go into Chase and say, Dad died. You're not going to get a lot of help.
Right.
And you know what I tell people? Go to a different branch.
Right.
And I've done it myself. I've gone branch to branch as a nominated executor to tell them somebody had passed. They don't care.
They don't care.
Fine. Go to the next branch. I think I went to 3 or 4 branches. I was walking around Manhattan one day, and I finally got a Chase that would accept the death certificate I was giving them. And all I wanted was for them to freeze the account.
Right, right.
I wasn't holding myself out as having
and you weren't asking for money.
I didn't want fraud. The person passed. I'm his lawyer. Freeze the account.
Right.
It took 3 or 4 banks visits to accomplish that. And that was a long time ago. And it's for our protection, but you can imagine how frustrating that is for a surviving spouse, an old surviving spouse, or anyone, and then for the kids, it's just being organized is the biggest gift you can give to.
That's a good way to biggest gift. The nice way to end this conversation. Yeah. A biggest gift. Yeah. So Harold, how do people get in contact with you?
I appreciate you asking. My offices are at 400 Post Avenue in Westbury.
Very nice office. I do go there all the time.
We see each other there, and it's easy to get to. And we have lots of parking.
Yes.
My website is bollacilaw.com.
Why don't you spell that?
Thank you. B as in boy, OLLACILAW.
Everyone would have gotten that right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yes. And you have a phone number you want to give?
Yeah, the telephone number is 516 538 9700.
516-938.
538.
538. Very good.
9700.
9700.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Harold, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed our conversation.
Me too very much.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Unlocking Senior Resources podcast by Leave the Key. If you've enjoyed this episode or found it helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast. We specialize in working with seniors who are transitioning out of their homes, and we understand what you are going through. So if you are considering selling your home and would like an alternative to the traditional overwhelming process, reach out to see how we can help. When working with us, you can sell your home in its current condition, there is no need to remove unwanted items, and you control when the house is sold, along with so many other advantages. Visit leavethekey.com or call us at 631-388-7771 to learn more about our senior home buying process.